Okay. So, Aleshka and I and Tiffany have just recently realized the studio is getting super busy, and setting up the equipment when you're done is just as important as you coming in. Because the thing is, when you come in, the equipment should be set up for you pretty much. So you two can come on over, and we're going to start. And in between each, we can take notes if you want. So equipment setup and takedown, leave no trace principles, okay? So when you come into the studio, foot bar should be at the highest setting, okay? So start there. Okay? And then we'll go through each piece as we talk about it. So foot bar, go ahead and lift up the foot bar and the handle, use both hands, and just play around. You're gonna have 3 levels there. You got top, middle, and lower. Oh, you're fine. Middle, and then the lowest. Now, you can use this sometimes if someone's really tall. Like if we have someone really tall, they had a knee injury, you don't have to write this down, just sort of like explaining the why of this. You can create more space by lowering it. What you also change is the hip fold angle. So the lower the bar goes, the more it resembles real life in standing, okay? So with this bar this low, your bum and your heels are only that far away. So this is if I had warmed up someone quite a bit and I was like, okay, I really want to work on hip extension. But most people, we need to work on hip fold, getting you to fold in your hip socket. So the higher the bar, now your femur is way up here and it's going down. So this has more to do with getting your joints to bend where they should versus modifying for height. We will use it, but for the most part, it's that. So we can change everything about your hip fold. Maybe not everything, but we can change a bit about the challenge. So healthy body, healthy spine, we start with the foot bar up. So I'm gonna have you move yours back up, okay? Okay, next, springs. Go ahead and pull up that foot bar or footwork sheet again. Or any of those sheets, okay? So what else is notated here? You have the setup on the top left. Springs, 2Y, 2B. I call that blue. Luckily, B also stands for black. So whatever color you're seeing, that's what you're setting up. 2 yellow, 2 black. Now the other thing, I don't tell our students this, but you two will know this. A red equates to about 2 blues-ish, okay? Ish. I'm gonna really be strong about that ish. 1 red equates to about 2 blues-ish. Because over time, maybe we're just using 1 blue, that one might wear it down a little bit. It's not an exact science, springs at all. But every exercise in the top left, it's gonna tell you how to set up the stuff we're about to review, okay? So springs is not dependent on the human body whatsoever. It is dependent on the exercise, and then can the body do it? No, we need to lighten it, or we need to make it heavier pending, okay? On the sheet, just so you know, to top right is your reps. Yeah.
And how do we set it? What's our general setting for the springs?
So when you come into the studio, it's gonna be 2 yellows and a red, usually. So you could, again, if you wanna make note of this, you can either do 2 yellows, 2 blues, or 2 yellows and a red. It's a smidge heavier with the red because the red just isn't used that much in the studio, so it has a lot of tension on it. But yeah, if you wanted to just do a red like it is when you're set up.
Setting it up when we're done, go back.
When you yes.
What do you want us to leave it as?
Oh, leave it as 2 yellows and a red.
Okay.
Got you, yes.
2 yellows and 1 red.
And then yes, from the beginning when it's 2 yellows and a red, and when it ends with 2 yellows and a red, there's all the magic that happens, like 2 bookends, like 2 yellows and a red, 2 yellows and a red, and then your whole workout in between, the springs are changing a lot. Okay, so again, that is exercise dependent. The sheets will tell you.
And headrest when we leave should be up.
Headrest up, yeah, getting that next. So if you choose stand up, step off. Headrest has 2 settings. It has, and go ahead and lift it, just kind of feel the little wooden flat back there? You've done that before. You move it out of the way and it lowers completely flat, right? Go ahead and put it flat one more time. That resembles when you're standing. Ideally, eventually, where we kind of want your head. The thing is, with our thoracic curve, right? If our thoracic curve is there, Joe Pilates knew that wasn't really, it's either too much or it's not there at all. You know, he put this headrest there to help facilitate imprinting the rib cage. Someone with real kyphosis, which means they're really, 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 yes, so real kyphosis would be that real exemplary, overarching, I can't think of the words today, where your thoracic cavity is really collapsed in the front and really rounded in the back. Someone that has that, it's sort of like, you'll notice if you have a bum, I don't, so I can do a lot of the Pilates stuff like as is, but if you have a bum and we're asking you to roll back, that, my lovely lady humps, right? I'm gonna have to be working around something and this isn't gonna touch. If someone has that sort of hump in their upper back, when they go to put their head back, if this doesn't have the pliability to do something like this, their head is hanging off their joints because they can't actually move their spine bones. So just like if someone has a nice tush, we put a pillow back there so they have something to imprint into. We work with the body and their curves to support. So if someone, again, doesn't have that thoracic flexibility to put their head down, we add a pillow there. And it's not like we're trying to give them, we're not like enabling the behavior, it's just we're meeting them where they're at. You two have healthy, pliable bodies, you're not gonna need a pillow. But you could put it higher if you needed it. Neither of you are gonna need that. But just know that in the original design, there's, you know, 2 options. Well, in this design, there's 2 options. And you are going to be in the middle. You're not gonna be at the highest, okay? When you're lying down. So you can check that out, Jen. If you pull that up a little higher, you'll see you have like a second setting. Like that.
Okay.
Yep.
I only see 2 settings.
Yeah.
2, and then down is the 3rd. Sorry, being completely flat.
Flat is down.
And then you come up to that. That's, yep, second.
2.
And then this going down on the top makes it higher. You see how it's resting on? So like that little notch.
Versus that. Got it.
Yep. So highest.
High.
Okay.
And where do you want it to live?
It will live in the middle setting. That's a great question. Like, what would you call it? High, middle? I've never actually like labeled them. But yeah, when you leave, the bookend of your workout is middle. Does that make sense, Jen?
Yeah, I just.
Is it just sliding? There you go.
That's highest.
Highest is,
Okay, so I was in the middle.
yeah, you were in the middle. There you go.
Middle. Okay, got it.
Yes. Okay. Test out now. No. It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't expect you to remember any of this. I stole your pen. There you go. Okay. What did I do with my?
So we're leaving, I'm sorry, we're leaving it in medium.
Yes, in the middle. Whatever you want to call that. This is where did my equipment sheet go? I'm just going to look on yours for now. So next, handles. Okay, this is fascinating. There's so much variation here. I just want you to know the beginning and the end for now, and this will change in your exercises. So if you step off, this length will dictate how hard or how light some of your upper body connection stuff is, okay? When it's set up, I'm gonna take this back. Let's go into gearing first and then we'll talk about straps. So if you two will move your equipment, and Sarah, you can just lay down if you want, and we'll assess like where the carriage needs to be for you. Okay, so you have a seat, lie down, feet on the foot bar. It'll feel really nice.
You should be on the middle spot.
Yes, you can move that to middle. Okay. Yeah. And just take a minute. How tall are you?
5'6.5".
See, I feel like you have enough fold, you can stay geared in. Okay, and I'll talk about what that means in a minute, but yeah. Go ahead and just go in Pilates V, knees a little wider, and drop your tail feathers. Good. And again, you guys can take turns lying on the reformer because it's like a gift. And then you can just drop your tail feathers. Oh, there you go. And just enjoy this for a minute and just be like, thanks, Joe. This is such cool stuff he did for you, right? He's got your legs supported for you. He's got shoulder pads that will literally do your plugging for you in footwork. It's nice. You've got a headrest that allows your head to be lifted slightly so you can knit your ribs to the mat. You thought of all the things, right? Okay.
Your shoulders touching the shoulders?
You will, go ahead and just do a press out, ladies. Go ahead and press all the way out. And you'll feel, oh, it pulls my shoulder blades down for me. And then you can draw back in. Go ahead and do it again. Okay? See if you can lengthen, open up the hips, yeah. And then come all the way in. Now, for the record, if I just let you hang out with shoulder pads pushing down and had never cued your bottom half, your shoulder blades would be pulling down on a spine that most likely would probably want to arch, because when we have our shoulder blades down, usually the ribs pop. So because you all have done this before, come in before you go anywhere, corset your ribs, pull in, exhale, press out. So those shoulder pads are pulling down into something that's stable. Your spine is like pulling up as the shoulder pads push down. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just realized that I've been pushing my shoulders into the shoulder pads when maybe I should be relaxing them.
By sheer nature of this resistance, there's going to be some pushing there. Like your shoulders are going to run into the shoulder pads. What I would love to see from you is just a knitting of these ribs in so that the shoulder girdle has something to rest upon versus it, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it might even feel like you're a little rounded to start.
You said you've been like actively pushing your shoulders up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, do this. Actively lengthen the crown of your head as you press out. And then the shoulders are going away from the ears. So it's like a little neck traction you get. Thanks, Joe, for that too, right? And then you can draw all the way in. All right? Okay, so I had to do this all just to experience the gear, and I wanted to make sure your height. So for you two, I'm gonna keep you geared in, and I want you two to sit up, and I want you to understand this mechanic, just so you start to understand a little bit of respect for the equipment. Go ahead and step off and take all the springs off. And you'll see the carriage floats away. Prove my point, carriage. There we go. See how it floats away? Just floats away. It's not attached to anything. You try and do some exercises without springs, welcome to true epic Pilates, right? I'm pressing out and I've got to pull myself back in. So if someone was taller, say one day you're in here and you're like, oh, I just want to bring in my 6'4" friend or whatever. Don't do that. You have to ask permission. But you can gear this thing out to create space. I'm gonna have you both do this. You see this stopper? I want you to bring it out to the farthest one.
So it's always like 2 away from wherever the...
Yep, you read my mind. That's exactly what I was gonna go to next. As the bar moves, the stopper moves. There's 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, and this 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4, just got it. Yeah, no, it's not you. This frame is slightly off in its... I've never actually had to gear it out that far, so you won't have to worry about it, but I wanted to teach a point. The other 2 work. This one is slightly misaligned.
So if I was here, this would be...
Yes, so start to move it in relation, Jen. Like as you move the bar in one, move the stopper in one. And 2. And then once you move it in one, Rebecca, leave it at that next one. Okay, move it one more. Okay, now pull your carriage back in and just attach a spring or 2. Okay, so what you've just done is, yes, so there's the dots that relate to the crevices.
So this would be the tallest person, and like us that are just a little bit taller would be a little bit closer.
And eventually, I mean, not for nothing, but we're trying to be geared. This is, in classical Pilates, on a classical reformer, this would be considered negative gear. The one that is beyond, it's sort of in line with this high foot bar. That's a negative gear. And then this would be considered first gear, first gear, second gear, third gear. Okay, I'm saying this just to give you all of the education. You go into another studio, they're like, go into second gear. You'd be like, I know exactly what they're talking about. We are trying to get people to have a negative gear fold eventually. Okay, I don't care how tall you are. Joe Pilates is like, I still want you to be able to fold in your hip. Now, we're appreciating the reality of being immortal, and we allow to gear out now. So these equipments are designed to allow you to gear out. But we are eventually trying to get that fold in the joints without the spine folding, okay? So the reason for the gear out is the springs are now the same exact tautness. If you did this accidentally, say you geared this out, but didn't move the bar. So what I just did was, go ahead and take, move that out, but don't move the bar, okay? And then you tried to spring up. It's under tension, so you'll be like, oh, okay, that means.
Is there anyone for any reason that would do these?
No, that'd be an accident. You'd be like, I just forgot to gear out or something. Yeah, no, so there's, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think, it's not good for the equipment. The springs would wear out super fast.
Is this where you want it at the end?
At the end, geared in.
Geared all the way into
All the way, yes, geared in negative. What's that?
Has it ever been on that cheated with a quick change, like in an exercise to not
Right.
Yes.
Yes, yes, we secretly do it sometimes. If we're like, just need you to feel this real quick.
Quick question on the way you have this laid out. Would it make sense to have a whole section about gearing out, or is that?
You will never gear out. Once you get, I am over-explaining, I'm like mansplaining the heck out of this. Because I just want you to, like, maybe you won't revere the reformer and their equipment as much as me, but.
This is really helpful because I think it's really easy to do great work and to get hurt on the reformer.
Oh, it is very,
Having, like, I've never had this kind of context for actually, like, the theory behind the reformers.
Yeah.
Appreciating it a lot.
yes, thank you. Yeah, and part of this is like, this is, it's like reverence. I get goosebumps every time. At the end of ballet, you know, it's how I say, I'm crying every time. There is such wisdom inherent in this that I'm still discovering 20 years later. And the equipment in and of itself, it looks very mechanical, methodical, and this, 90-degree lines. But it is the springs and the way they are in relation to each other and the equipment, it becomes part of your movement. So this being set up and understanding this, you don't have to memorize it. It will just be, oh, right, I've got to gear back in because that felt off. Like, I want you to develop your connection to it, you know? So I'm giving you all the info, and I appreciate that you, get that. But yes, you two are physically fit enough and at a height where you can gear in fully, and when you leave, you gear it in because, again, we are leaving it as we found it, and we leave it as we're working people towards, like the ideal, right? And it also is how this setup is for your first exercise. So someone comes in, so try it out. So to gear in,
Is my setup going to be 1 or 0?
negative gear, so you'll be gearing all the way. I call it gearing in relation to where you are. So there's one more thing you have to move before you can attach the springs. Yeah. Yep. And now you can add your 2 yellows and a red, or.
So if that's negative, is this one right here 0 and then it goes 1, 2, or do they not really have names?
Negative. Again, I learned them on a classical reformer. It's like negative gear, and then first, second, third.
Okay, so there's no actual 0.
Yeah, there is no 0. What? Right. Right to the Ramana on a grave. Hey, we need a 0 gear. A 0 gear. Yeah, and I've not actually referred to it as negative gear the entire time I've taught here. It's just looking at it and in a teaching perspective, that's what we called it. But I'll just say geared in. And then that is pretty much set. Now, what gets tricky, and I'd be curious on your input on this, I have a couple 6'4" students, and when we do footwork, we gear out like 2. We're like in 2nd gear, we're almost out in 3rd gear. When you change this length, like, will you pull on that strap right now? Just kind of pull it, yep. See where it is? So it's kind of over the shoulder pad. If I gear out 2, right, now we've got, footwork is great, but the very next exercise is 100, and now he's got it easy peasy because he's floating around in 2nd gear, there's no resistance, he's like, this is amazing. So that's a frustrating transition. I'll usually just gear them right back in after footwork. Is that what you do? Yeah. It's like, okay.
It seems like it would be.
What's that? Versus changing the straps, because I'm going to show you how to change the straps in a minute, and it's a beast. And you will find this is something we don't stick to in the studio. If I gear in and out, I really don't change the straps much. I just, in between the negative gear and the 1st gear, I don't change the length of the straps much.
For me, part of that is because on every reformer I've ever been on, the strap adjustment is fitful unless you're on a classic one where it's the pegs and the leather, right?
It's measurable, right?
Otherwise, it's like
Fitful is a good way to say
Yep, and you're gonna experience that in a minute because I'm gonna show you how to change this stuff. Because there is, and over time, you know, these reformers are being used, I don't know, we have 20 sessions a week. So, you know, 20 times a week, there's a different body on this reformer. They shift over time. And so I'm gonna show you when you come in, you can just do a little check. Oh, these are off right now. Look at the difference. If y'all come over, I can show you. If you stand from bird's eye view, yeah, and if you look at bird's eye view, you're gonna be like, oh.
They're also a little uneven at the head, all the way up top. The left one's a little higher
Yeah,
already.
this
I don't know
one's
if that
down
matters.
and that one's higher.
Oh yeah, so things to check for, right? Oh, it wasn't tightened.
Not much, but.
That might have to do with it though. Let's see what happens. Definitely makes it more even, right? Okay, so just a reminder, you two, for the sake of your bodies and your workouts, unless you go into teaching, that's all you have to worry about, okay? You're gonna be geared in, you set up your straps once, you're gonna be good you won't have to change really anything. But I want you to know how to do this. So, I'm gonna gear you back in, Rebecca. Okay, so I'm just moving everything back. Now, your straps, you come in, just get in the habit of this, you're gonna pull. Now, go ahead and hold yours, Jen, and then Rebecca, you hold yours, and let's look at the difference here. Okay? Make sure they're level. You're both at about the same.
This one's longer, a little bit
A
longer.
little bit longer, right, we're gonna adjust it. So I'm just gonna have you pull on yours slightly, Jen. Pull yours, pull yours, pull yours a little bit more. So just throwing this out there, who's gonna have a more challenging time with arm springs, Jen or you? Yeah, right. Resistance is pulling you this way, so you're gonna have to pull that much more to get it in front of you. So again, another, see how her straps are longer? Her straps are shorter?
Yes.
So it's saying if she comes in and her straps are that long, because they might very well be. However, we might have had someone on yours, we might have had someone gear out and then we geared back in and yours ended up shorter, you know? So I just want you to start to understand, oh, straps are longer, less resistance. Geared out, less resistance, okay? It's like this inverse relationship with Pilates equipment. It's fascinating, okay? And then go ahead and put yours down. Now my rule of thumb is when I come into the studio, I want these to be slightly slack when the handles are on the hooks, okay? There are times when you'll come in, if we've had to gear someone out, and you come in and it's like the reformer is being pulled by this, you know? It's so tight. You'll want to go in and loosen them up, and I'm going to show you how to do that next, okay? So, how you both doing so far?
Great.
How, it seems like already an hour. Like what? How can I talk so much? So much to teach. Okay, so you'll come and you're gonna notice, and you're gonna do this on yours, Jen, and you two can, you know, if you guys wanna team up over there, Aleshka's well versed in this. This little clasp, you see that?
Yes.
And then you can pull up, or you can pull down. Yeah, and so you can pull up and you can yes. And then when you find the length you want, you just push that down.
So is this enough slack? Or is that too much slack?
So loosely, if I say it's in line with like the shoulder pads, I like that.
Okay.
Yep. And this isn't an exact science, but yeah, I was saying like if you get